Just hit a button, Morty. Give me a beat.
Oh man, okay, all right,
Simon, welcome to another day of biology. So today we're actually starting a new unit, so we're actually going to start talking about plants. But before we get into that, some things to note. On the last lesson, if you put a question for me about college, I went ahead and replied to that. So make sure that you go back and look at that question. And if you have any more follow-up, text me on Remind, email me, whatever you need to do. I'm here for you. I love college. I love talking about it. And I want to make sure that everyone who wants to go or who even thinks that they might want to go has like the opportunities and the resources that they need to like kind of understand what college is about. Okay, so we are here, Unit 3, Plant Structures. Like my new PowerPoint, it's so cute. So I have a question. What would be most helpful for you? So on Google Classroom, I've already posted some study resources. So if you click it and click the document, that's where I'm going to have linked all of these different things. So first, I have my lesson videos on YouTube. So if you click the link, it'll go to a PowerPoint, or not a PowerPoint, a playlist that has all the videos. Okay? If you click a video, you can also watch it in a different language by going to closed captions, and the settings auto-translate to any language. Okay, here's what that looks like. 3 is going to be about plant body systems. I've also created Quizlets. Okay, and so this you can use to do flashcards. There are games, there's a learn mode, and sometimes may even do homework on here. I recommend going ahead and playing with this now because I've already put all the vocab that you're going to need for the next test as well. I've also linked all of my PowerPoints. So you have access to all of these resources at any time, 24/7, all on one document. So I have some options listed over there. You'll see in a second. Which of these would be most helpful for you? Select all that would be helpful for you in this class. Okay, thank you for doing that, and I will, try and get some resources together to try and help you out as much as possible. So this right here is what our next couple weeks are going to look like. So you're probably watching this on one of these days. So notice that we have 1, 2, 3 lessons. Then we have a review and a test. Okay, so it's coming up pretty soon. I just want to make sure that everyone sees this, okay? Unit 1 test, I ended up not putting into the grade book, but this one I will have to put into the grade book, okay? So please make sure that you are doing what you need to do, looking at all the resources that I have provided on Google Classroom. Okay, so let's talk about plants. So this right here, you can see this is a plant, right? And we see some things down here. I'm not going to say what they're called. You probably already know. What is this system called, do you think? Definitely going to be the root system. Okay? How about this system? What do you think this is called? The shoot system. Okay, so we're talking about roots and we're going to talk about shoots. So the root system is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be everything that is under the ground, right? Because roots are under the ground. While the shoot system is going to be where you shoot. No, I'm just kidding. The shoot system is going to be everything that is above ground. So the leaves, the stems, the flowers, pretty much that pretty part of the plant that you normally will see. Okay, so there are 3 main tissue types that we're going to kind of talk about really quickly just so you kind of have an idea. So there's a vascular tissue. So vascular, you probably already know this, but vascular refers to vessels. So like your blood vessels and arteries and veins and all of that, those are vascular tissues of the human body. While in plants, we have vascular tissues that transport water and food that are called xylem and phloem, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. Another type of tissue is called the dermal tissue. So it's used for protection and prevention of water loss. So actually in your skin, that top layer is called the epidermis. There's a layer underneath it that is called the dermis, okay? And we already know that the integumentary system, the skin system, is used for protection, right? We know that it's the barrier to the outside world. Okay, and then last but not least, all other tissue types in a plant are going to be called ground tissue, okay? So the main types you're going to need to know are going to be vascular tissue. Vascular just means vessels. So like in your body, your vessels transport blood and nutrients, right? While in plants, they don't have blood, they have water, right? They have water and nutrients. So make sure that you know those. Okay, we're going to go into the different systems. We're going to talk about roots, we're going to talk about stems, and we're going to talk about leaves. So buckle up, let's get into it. So the roots, look at this picture right here. What do you think the purpose of having these? What is the purpose of having roots? Well, roots, of course, are going to anchor the plants into the ground, right? We also know that roots are what absorb the water. And you know, there's two things that you maybe didn't know. You maybe didn't know that roots actually store sugars. They actually store sugars. A lot of the plants that we like to eat are actually like root vegetables, right? They're going to be vegetables underground. They have these sugars. That's why they taste so good, because they have sugars in them. Okay. Another thing about roots is roots actually help to prevent erosion. Okay. So in like the sides of rivers, right? In the sides of river called the river bank, okay, there's lots of plants that have their different roots all down into it, and those roots actually help to stop the soil from eroding completely. Okay, so those are the two functions that you probably already knew. It anchors the plant, it keeps the plant in place. They also absorb water, we all know that, but these are some other ones that you maybe didn't know. So look at these two. We have A and we have B. Which would absorb more water, do you think? A or B? So we know that it's B, right? So you probably already picked B. Why? Why is B absorbing more water than A? Well, there's this thing that's called surface area. You probably learned about this in your math class. Well, here it is in biology. Everything is connected, okay? So let's look at these two cubes. This right here is a small one. It has a low surface area, right? There's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides of a cube. And this one over here is a bunch of little cubes all put together. So it actually has way more surface area on it. So think of this cube as a sponge, right? This sponge right here can soak up a little bit of water. This big sponge right here could soak up a lot of water. Okay, so it's the same idea with roots. With roots, with your blood vessels, with all kinds of things. The surface area can tell you about how much it can soak up, how much can it take in, how much gas exchange can occur. So again, this right here has more surface area than this little root right here. So since it has more surface area, it's going to be able to do more water absorption. Exactly. All right. So what exactly helps increase surface area? So we know that water is absorbed by roots. What actually helps those roots increase their surface area? Well, we have these little things that are called root hairs. So root hairs actually increase the surface area. Okay, so let's say there's a root, right? Organisms, plants are going to grow root hairs, right? They're going to be extensions of the roots that are going to increase surface area. So if this thing was just flat, it would have pretty good surface area, but by extending out on all these different spots, it's increasing surface area so that every single part that is exposed can now absorb water. So root hairs actually increase surface area for water absorption. So there are two types of roots. We have tap roots and we have fibrous roots. So tap roots are going to, basically what it sounds like, they're going to tap deep down into the soil to get the nutrients. So tap deep down into the soil to get nutrients. So examples of tap roots: carrots, radishes. Okay, we have fibrous roots. Fibrous roots, again, the name kind of gives you a hint as to what it is. They're very fibrous. They have lots of little fibers, right? You see all these different fibers. They're very thin and they spread out away. Okay, they're away from the plant to get nutrients, right? They're not going down deep. They're going away instead, okay? These fibrous roots actually help reduce erosion of the soil. So fibrous roots, famous examples: grass, corn, right? If you ever rip some grass out of the ground, right, you can see that their roots have a lot of little fibers on them. They're fibrous roots. So again, the difference between tap roots are going to reach deep down in the soil to get nutrients. They're going to go deep down, while the fibrous roots are going to be thin and they're going to spread out. Instead of going deep, they're going to stay shallow and just spread away. Okay, so depending on different environments, a taproot might be more suitable or a fibrous root might be more suitable depending on the available water, where the water is. Like if there's lots of rainfall, right, lots of water falling down on the surface, then a fibrous root that's spread out is going to get a lot of that water. But if this is a place in which there's not a lot of rainfall, all the water is deep down inside, then a taproot is going to be more beneficial in that environment. Okay, so remember, biology is all connected. All these connections are being made. Here's exactly what they look like. So again, taproot system versus fibrous root. So one thing I want to point out is this one can look fibrous, right? It looks a bit fibrous, but the way that you know this is a taproot is because there's that one long one, okay? That one long root is essentially the taproot, while these other ones are going to be more so the root hairs, okay? Versus this one right here, it doesn't have a main long one, right? They're all just kind of the same thin shape and they're spreading out. Next up, we're talking about the stems. So stems look like this, right? You know what a stem of a plant is, or the stem of a tree, right? Those are all stems. So what do you think actually is the purpose of stems? What do you think happens if a plant's stem is broken? And can the plant survive with a broken stem? So the functions of stems are going to be support the plant's body parts, right? It's going to support the plant's body parts. The reason why you can see flowers sticking up is because there's a stem that holds it up, okay? Stems also, of course, carry nutrients throughout the plant, right? They carry that water throughout the plant. And stems also produce leaves, branches, flowers, fruits, all those pretty things that we see in plants. So again, this is a stem of a plant. So its job is to carry water and nutrients, of course. Support the leaves. Exactly. So there's this thing that's called transpiration. Transpiration is going to be the process of water moving. And we know that water comes into the plant through the roots. We know that. The roots take up water. The water doesn't just stay down here. It has to get to the entire plant. So the water actually is going to transport through the vessels of the plant, up and through the stem and into the leaves. Okay? And that process is called transpiration. Okay? Transpiration is literally just water moving. So there are two types of vessels in a plant. There's xylem and there's phloem. Okay? Xylem is going to be the one that carries water, right? And again, we know that water enters the plant down in the roots, then goes up through the stem and into the leaves, right? So xylem is going to be that flow. It's going to be come through the roots into the xylem, which is a vessel, and then into the leaves. While we have this thing that's called phloem, phloem's job is to actually transport products of photosynthesis. And you and I already know what photosynthesis is, right? Photosynthesis is, right? And photosynthesis produces, exactly, those glucose sugars. So those sugars are going to need to be transported both up and down, okay? So phloem is going to transport products of photosynthesis. So make sure that you know the difference between these. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so make sure that you know the answers to those. Xylem is for water and minerals, while phloem is going to be for products of photosynthesis. These are vascular tissues. Again, vascular is just a fancy way of saying vessels. So in you and I, we have blood vessels. Well, plants, they have vessels of water and they have vessels with sugars in them. Okay? So this is what this looks like. So in the roots, right, we have water and the minerals that come in through the xylem. And then the leaves are actually what do photosynthesis, and photosynthesis produces sugars, and those sugars need to be transported to the roots, the leaves, the stems, all of it, okay? So those photosynthesis products go through the phloem. Okay, onto the leaves. So I kind of already gave you the answer, but what do you think the function of leaves is? Exactly. Function of leaves, as you can see on this picture right here, the function of leaves is going to be doing photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis, the whole purpose of having these broad things that capture all this sunlight, right? They literally look like they're designed to capture sunlight. Take it in, do photosynthesis, make sugars, feed the plant. Exactly. Leaves are also used for gas exchange. They're going to release oxygen, right? Plants give off oxygen. And plants are going to take in CO2 to do photosynthesis. So they do gas exchange. That is what that means. Gas exchange means exchanging one gas, so oxygen, for carbon dioxide. That's all it means, to exchange. The mesophyll. So meso just means middle. So it's going to be the middle of the leaf. The actual middle of the leaf is where photosynthesis actually occurs. So the top part of the leaf is meant to take in the light, and then it transfers it to the middle of the leaf where the photosynthesis actually truly occurs. Okay, the site of photosynthesis. Okay, that's a layer of cells just under the epidermis where most of the photosynthesis takes place, just as I just told you. Okay, that is where photosynthesis occurs in the mesophyll inside of the leaf. So again, this is what photosynthesis looks like. So we have water coming in through the roots. We have sunlight coming in from the sky, and we have carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. That is going to produce carbohydrates, glucose, sugars, same thing, carbohydrate, glucose, sugars, those are all the same thing, and gives off oxygen, which that's why we love plants so much, because they give us oxygen. All right, so we've done this to death. Okay, we've done photosynthesis to death, but I'm going to bring it up every single time that I can because it's extremely important to biology. Okay, so carbon dioxide and water plus sunlight makes glucose, sugars, and oxygen. Okay, ignore this right here, this chlorophyll, that just is the green pigment of a plant. You don't necessarily need to know that, but chlorophyll is the green pigment of the plant that actually captures the sunlight. So there are these things called stomata, also known as stoma, depending on if you're talking about singular or plural. These are actually going to be the pores in the underside of a leaf. So the underside, so if there's a leaf, just get something. So let's say this is a leaf. This is the sun beaming down. The underside is down here. That's the underside. Okay, this is where the stomata are found. They look like this. So the pores in the underside of the leaf, they are designed to do two things. When they open up, water escapes. Okay? They're also designed to do gas exchange, so CO2 and oxygen. Again, CO2 and oxygen. Okay? So there's these things called the guard cells. Their job is to open and close depending on the environment. So if the environment has only a little bit of water, the plant is going to want to conserve water. If the plant wants to conserve water, then the stomata are going to close, right? Because we know that every time the stomata are open, what is escaping when they're open? Water. Water escapes when they're open. So if there's only a little bit of water, is the plant going to want to get rid of its water all willy-nilly? No, it's not. The plant is going to want to keep that water by closing its stomata. Okay? Then whenever it's a lot of water available, then the stomata can open. Okay, this is what it looks like. So when the stoma is closed, water cannot escape. When the stoma is open, water can escape. Okay, so carbon dioxide enters the leaf. Water and oxygen exit the leaf. Again, carbon dioxide enters the leaf. We know that leaves take in CO2 for photosynthesis. Okay, water is lost through transpiration, and oxygen is given off as a product of photosynthesis. This is a thing that's called the waxy cuticle / epidermis. Okay, so we know that oil and water do not mix. Oil and water do not mix. If you ever had like an oily dish for dinner and you went to go wash your dishes, you have to use a lot of dish soap because water alone is not going to get that oil off, right? You're going to need a lot of dish soap to get that oil off. So plants don't want to lose their water. So if they don't want to lose their water, they have to come up with a way to keep their water in. So plants found out that if they have a leaf, and if they put a waxy cuticle on top, wax is also oil, okay? So they put a waxy cuticle on top. Anytime the water tries to come up, boom, the wax is like, nope, you're not leaving. You must not leave, okay? So leaves have an oily or waxy covering to make sure the water does not leave the leaf, okay? It's a way of conserving their water, that waxy cuticle, okay? This prevents water loss, okay? This adaptation, no. So this allows plants to survive and reproduce better in their environment. This is an example of what? Giving you some of the letters, what are the rest? An adaptation, exactly. Adaptations help organisms survive and reproduce better in their specific environment. So another part of the shoot system is going to be flowers and fruits, right? Those things that are above ground that we see. But not every plant is going to have flowers or fruits, right? These are actually these are actually reproductive organs. So we'll talk about that. I think tomorrow's lesson is going to be reproductive plants. Okay. This again is just like a diagram of what the plant looks like. So this is a plant and this is like a cross section. So a cross section is means that they just split the leaf. So it's as if they cut the leaf right there or cut the plant right there and showed us it. So in it we can see that there's xylem and phloem, which are our vascular tissues. Those are the vessels, right? There's this ground tissue that's just kind of like filler. And then there's that dermal tissue. Dermal tissue, again, like your epidermis of your skin. Plants have that as well, okay? So some of the most important points, let's go ahead and recap. So there are things called, roots absorb water and nutrients. Root hairs increase blank, therefore increasing water absorption. Going to increase the surface area, therefore increasing water absorption. Good. Okay, stems are going to transport water and nutrients. What vascular tissue transported water? What about the products of photosynthesis? Good job. So you should have said xylem and phloem. Leaves do photosynthesis. So tell me about the stomata. Stomata pores blank when there's a lot of water available, and they blank when there's low amounts of water available. Right? They're going to open when there's a lot of water, and they're going to close to conserve water if there's barely any water in the ecosystem. Okay, so next thing we are talking about kind of transport today, but we're going to talk about sexual reproduction and plant responses and tropisms, okay?